We continue to watch the Atlantic for tropical development over the next several days or so, as there is a tropical wave we're watching that could make its way into the Caribbean. If it does, we'll have a shot to develop. If it does develop, how strong would it get? Where would it go? Of course, we don't know the answers to all of that right now, but we will speak on what we do know. We'll go over all model guides from overnight into this morning. We'll geek out with you guys a little bit and just try to figure this thing out. There's a lot of things, a lot of questions that we just don't have answers to right at this second. But like I said, we'll go over what we do know. Then we'll speak on the severe weather threat across areas of the country for Saturday. We'll talk on the pattern just between now and the rest of the month across the entire lower 48. We'll spend some time on that, and then we'll go over today's weather, and then we'll round the video off with a Bible devotion if you want to join us for that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. As always, let's make sure this is going to work, and it is, so we're good to go. So what is going on out there in the Atlantic right now? Not a whole lot of anything. We got a cold front that's cleared a good portion of the eastern U.S., so it's pretty quiet right now. It's quiet off the coast of the southeast, quiet in the Gulf, pretty quiet in the Caribbean. The area we are watching is just, I'm just going to circle this entire region right here. There's just some energy hanging out down here in what we call the MDR, main development region. It's an area of the Atlantic that typically starts to get really quiet by the time we get into this part of hurricane season. This part of the Atlantic basically begins to shut down. But here we are. We got some energy out here. Nothing overly concerning, but we are just watching this circled area as we move over the next, I would say, 7 to really 14 days. Now, there's a chance that between now and the next 7 days, this just falls apart, doesn't make it. So I do want to add that. But this circled area is really what we'll be discussing over the next, really the foreseeable future, as this begins to just slowly make its way and try to sneak into the Caribbean. So let's move past that and let's go over the latest from the National Hurricane Center. There's nothing. But I will say, I would not be surprised if they do something like eventually put like a yellow X right here, or maybe if it's in the next several days or so, the X might be over here. And then they'll do an arrow that kind of does like this. And then maybe have a low risk of tropical development somewhere in this circled area. That is my shot I'm going to take. And I think that might happen sometime between now and the weekend. And the reason it hasn't happened yet is because I don't think anything's going to develop. I don't think a tropical cyclone is going to develop out of this energy between now and the next 7 days. So this only goes between now and the next 7 days. So therefore, they're not going to really put anything out there. So hope that makes sense. But the National Hurricane Center, not seeing anything between now and the next week or so. So this is probably going to happen, if it's going to happen, after the next week or so. So sometime in the next between the 7 to 14 day time frame or something like that. So let's move past this. Let's go over model guidance. So we're going to start all this out with Sunday morning, afternoon. So the 19th of October, getting into this weekend. So you're not going to see much, but there's some energy right in here near the Lesser Antilles. And this energy is trying to sneak into the Caribbean, which is something we don't want to see. And as we're getting into early next week, like next Monday morning, well, this coming Monday morning, you can say October the 20th, you're just seeing a lot of blobs of green, splashes of yellow down here. Just think of that as a lot of moisture, shower and thunderstorm activity. It just gets unsettled down here in the Caribbean. And I will add this. October is the most active month out of hurricane season down here. Okay, so as we're starting to get into Tuesday, October the 21st, we're getting into Wednesday. You start to see a little bit more of kind of congealing of energy down here. Not a whole lot that your eyes go to, but then you see a low pressure pop up here. 1,009 millibar low, just a broad area of low pressure, broad area of unsettled weather. And this is hanging out down here, kind of getting squashed, kept down here, if you will. We get all the way into next Friday morning. So this is 8 days from now. And this is just spinning around, and we're 10 days from now. So this is getting into a part in model guidance where it gets really unreliable, right? But the pattern supports this. So all of a sudden, we got just a broad area of low pressure, a lot of energy down here. And there's a lot of fuel. And I'll give you the definition of fuel when it comes to the tropics here in a second. But there's a lot of energy and fuel down here for something to get going. And then we get past that kind of no man's land time frame, right? Past 10 days. And something really starts to get going down here. And all of a sudden we get a tropical cyclone, 988 millibar low. And this is really far out, guys, getting close to the last couple of days of October. And we have a hurricane hitting the southern coastline of Cuba. And this is riding over Cuba. And then the last frame here, which goes all the way out to, October the 30th, we have a hurricane rumbling through the Bahamas. Not a forecast, but this little track that this takes, this supports CLIMO, what tropical systems do if they do form this time of the year. Okay, what about the GFS? We got about 10 days worth of the GFS, and we might flip back and look at the overnight one too. Same thing, we got some energy Tuesday, just a lot of energy, just kind of bubbling up down here in the Caribbean. We get into Wednesday, we get into next Thursday, so we're 1 week from today, showing like dual low pressures. But just think of this area as a big, broad area of low pressure. And it quickly develops a major hurricane. Now, you can say, and I've been saying this, there is a convective feedback bias with the GFS, which means the GFS really likes to just go crazy with the energy and just storm activity with the tropics. So therefore, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. But all of a sudden, it shows a hurricane just south of Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and hasn't making landfall. And then it kind of just gets north, and this is the last frame of it. And the last few runs have showed something like this. Really has this getting going more so in the eastern half of the Caribbean rather than the western half. So it really quickly fires up a hurricane here. And of course, who knows what it does after 10 days. It doesn't really matter. The Euro AI model has consistently stayed conservative, which is just taking the less aggressive route, if you will. And we get into Tuesday, we see a blob of darker green here, maybe just stronger tropical wave energy. And then we get into Thursday, there's just a lot of green down here, a lot of energy hanging out down here. And, we get into next Friday, we get into next weekend, not this weekend. There's just a lot of energy hanging out down here with us here in the Caribbean, but nothing really getting going. Just lots of just activity. So that's what the Euro AI model is showing. The Canadian model already has the beginning stages of a tropical cyclone developing by the time we get into this coming Sunday. Monday already has a tropical storm developing. Next name is Melissa, by the way. And it has this kind of maintaining tropical storm status all the way through about a week from today and kind of sneaking in between Hispaniola and, Jamaica and Cuba. And then we go all the way to the end and it just weakens. So the icon, we can go, let's just take a look at the morning icon model run, and we go all the way to Monday. We go all the way to Tuesday, and this is the last frame of it. We have some energy into here, but nothing too crazy between now and next late Monday night. Okay. Now, what about ensemble, guys? Remember, this makes up 51 members on the Euro ensemble. Doesn't mean we're going to have 51 hurricanes, okay? This is just an output that throws all the members on our screen here. So the more L's you see, the stronger of a signal for tropical activity. No, I'm good here. So you can see a signal down here. And this is between now and the next week. So there isn't a whole lot of members out of the 51 members, right? Not a whole lot at all. I mean, you got about half the members. I'm not going to count every single L, but so the members that do survive and get going, they try to develop. Now we go about the day 10, okay, 3 more days, and you just see a lot of clustering up of members. So everybody in the Caribbean needs to watch out for this, whether you're Central America, Cuba, Jamaica, all the way back over to Puerto Rico. The Lesser Antilles, I'd certainly watch out for just some unsettled weather over the next several days, but I really don't think this is going to get going before you guys. But I don't want to say any conclusive things, right? We don't know 100% for sure. Now, the GFS ensemble, remember, this makes up 21 members, so naturally, the more members you see, the more impressive of a signal it is, just because there's less members in this ensemble run. So between now and the next week, you can see clustering of members, and we go between now and the next 10 days, and it looks very similar to the Euro ensemble. You see many members kind of clustering up down here, deep in the Caribbean. Some of them are kind of shooting out like this, like it's operational run. And, you take a look at the Google DeepMind ensembles, it's not as strong as of a signal. And this ensemble run has done really well, and we go between now and the next week. And I mean, there's some members down here, but there's not a lot. So what I'm going to tell you is, and this is the part where we kind of talk about the fuel, right? We kind of geek out with you guys a little bit. When I talk about fuel with the tropics, I'm meaning sea surface temperatures, light wind shear, things like that. Just a area of moist air, no dry air. You're going to have all this in the Caribbean, everything. It's just, does energy get into this area and then fire off, right? So it's basically gasoline down here. You just need a flame, and the flame could be the energy coming into the Caribbean, right? So this is sea surface temperatures in Celsius. So 30, 31 degrees Celsius, you convert that to Fahrenheit. I mean, that's mid-upper 80s, right? I mean, that's plenty warm waters to really get tropical activity going. It does cool off once you get into the northern Gulf. But, I mean, most of the Gulf still certainly supported for tropical activity. So we're watching this area. The next thing I'll talk about is light wind shear. So all this, blue and greenish yellow area, this is a lot of flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But if you look down here, okay, you're not seeing a lot of blue, just a lot of white. This is light flow, light wind speeds at way up in the atmosphere. I'm talking about like pushing 40,000 feet up in the atmosphere. So anything that kind of meanders into this way will have excellent outflow to work with. So a lot of disbursement of air aloft on top of whatever's getting going. So you quite literally have what you call it's a ULAC, upper level anticyclone. So these tropical systems are spinning cyclonically, right? But in the upper levels, they're kind of spinning the opposite way. You think, well, that's going to mess up the cyclonic rotation of the system. It doesn't, because on top of the system, the air, whether it's just being dispersed directly outward or around, is actually allowing for more air to rise. That gets pushed out up on top of the storm. That allows for more air to rise. So it's just a constant ventilation system. We know that rising air allows for convection, shower and storm activity. Convection brings a moist atmosphere, right? When it's storming, it's moist outside. So, the environment down here is supportive of just light wind flow aloft. And in a more fancy term, light wind shear. And this just continues, okay? So this aids in a very moist environment. So the green, more moist air. The brown, drier air. And just got a lot of moist air hanging out down here, okay? So the environment certainly supports tropical activity down here. So let's move past the tropics, talk about some severe weather chances. Thankfully, this is not increased as of right now. This is for Saturday. We're just going to focus in on Saturday. We do have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. No upgrade has been made from a couple days ago. A marginal risk does extend all the way up into areas of Ohio, Indiana, and all the way down to Lafayette and almost Beaumont, Texas. So level 2 out of 5 risk includes just about all of Arkansas, eastern areas of Oklahoma. I'll kind of zoom into these areas if y'all want to check it out. This is northeast Texas. This is northern areas of Louisiana, pretty much all of Arkansas, including this. Sections of Mississippi here. It's the Mississippi River up into Memphis. And we kind of zoom out here so we know where we're at. Southern areas of Missouri. Okay, you guys have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather into areas of, let's see, sorry, I keep zooming in and out here, into a very small section of Illinois, Carbondale included. So level 2 out of 5 risk, and all we know right now is that there's just a 15% risk of any severe weather. So right now, I think damaging winds will be the primary threat, but you're certainly going to have a risk of tornadoes too. And what about the ingredients coming together? We're still not really in good range of short-range model guides, what we call CAMs, but we're going to still just look at the Euro. And what we're looking at here is kinematics, basically wind energy needed for severe weather. And as we're starting off Saturday, trough will dig down. This will enhance the flow aloft. Basically a lot of higher wind speeds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. In this case, this is about 18,000 feet. So we get into Saturday afternoon, and you see there's a lot of flow coming from southwest to northeast across this entire region right here. This will aid in wind energy for severe weather chances, and that'll swing across the region. And behind it, cool, dry air will follow immediately behind, but we got to deal with the severe weather. And that's typical fall-like stuff. We get a surge of warmth and humidity, some severe weather chances, and then the next day it's cool and crisp, right? Happens in the spring too. So this wind energy will be overlapping a pretty moist environment because that flow out the southwest will pull in that moist air from the south, and And this is the form of higher dew points. So this is the best way to gauge how humid it is outside, the moisture content in the atmosphere. And we're going to have just a sector of very moist air all the way up into low, just basically, I would say the Great Lakes region. So dew points in the 60s, even a pocket of 70s. When you get the dew points in the 60s and 70s, that's when you can really say, okay, it's humid outside, especially the 70s. Everybody always wants to look, when they look at their weather app, they want to look at the humidity percentage and say, oh, well, the humidity percentage is 87%. It must be very humid outside. That's not the best way to gauge how humid it is outside. I always try to throw that out there when I discuss severe weather. Look at your dew points. Chances are dew points are probably on that weather app that you're using also. So if you start to get dew points if you got dew points in the 70s, it's very humid outside. Dew points in the 60s, you can definitely feel a little humidity out there. And I've always said there's a huge difference between dew points in the upper 60s and the low 60s. There's like some sort of cutoff in there. But once you get into the 50s, you can pretty much officially say and lower that it's pretty dry. You're not really feeling much moisture outside. So just want to throw that out there. But this is definitely not a locked in moist sector. I mean, by the time you're waking up Sunday morning, the air mass clears out and feels right back to fall. So, and just looking at the depiction on what the radar could potentially look like, and this is just a global model, and this is getting a Saturday midday, a lot of thunderstorm activity already ongoing from northeast Texas, getting into northern Louisiana, all across Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, getting into Missouri, and then this is getting into, say, Saturday evening. Could have a line of thunderstorms moving through. I don't think this is going to bring us supercells. Could have some embedded supercells in this line of thunderstorms, but honestly, right now, I'm not overly concerned about this severe weather threat. I would say it definitely has not uptrended. So, moving past this, I do want to discuss and continue to throw this in there as we go. Just a pattern out ahead. I've seen some posts on social media, even by some well-known meteorologists, talking about, just a very warm pattern out ahead for the rest of October, this, that, and the other. I just don't buy it. Now, depending on where you live, if it's in the middle of the country, I mean, yeah, you probably got a higher chance of that. But if you live in the eastern U.S., southeast, mid-Atlantic, I really think that we're just going to continue to enjoy a very average fall, which an average fall is a nice fall in my opinion. So this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook between the 21st and 25th, issued yesterday. And they've actually brought it back to near normal conditions as far as temperatures, so around average temperatures. Still above average temperatures are more than likely going to be the case across the middle of the country and near normal out west. We go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. This runs us from the 23rd to the 29th of October. Still, maybe slightly above average temperatures across the east, a little bit higher of a chance, in the northeast, but around near normal for Carolinas, Virginia. And unfortunately, the warmth does look to kind of come back across the middle of the country, at least a higher chance of warmer than average temperatures. It's been a very slow transition, not much of a transition at all to fall across the middle of the country, that's for sure. No early season snows or anything like that. Now, going back to dew points, which is what I just discussed, like I said, the best way to engage, to really know what kind of air mass you have in place is dew points, especially this time of the year. You still can look at dew points. Really helps you figure out what kind of air mass you're dealing with. And we got a cold front that's making its way through air, kind of a backdoor cold front right now across areas of the southeast. And the air mass will linger through the weekend because of that. And then we'll get a big spike in humidity, higher dew points because of this next storm system moving in. Okay, and then immediately following, we have another cold front. And guys, this cold front coming in late this weekend into early next week, this one can make it all the way down to northern Florida. And look, big blast of cool air follows. And this is, like I said, this is dew points, not temperatures. So let me rephrase that. Big blast of dry air. This will allow temperatures to be cooler. These are not temperatures. It's not 34 degrees in southern Georgia. And then another reinforcing shot comes. Boom! This one does make it almost all the way down to Miami. Okay? And October is definitely a big turning point month for you guys in especially late October and Florida. But this air mass just hangs around, and honestly, guys, I really think over the next couple of weeks, you're just going to get reinforcing cold front after reinforcing cold front. Now, there's some signs as we get closer to the end of the month, maybe another big warm-up. But listen, I'm not seeing any dramatic warm-up. And if you look At the Euro ensemble, it does keep above average temperatures across the middle of the country, but it does have plumes of below average temperatures kind of scooting into the southeast. It's getting to Tuesday of next week, Wednesday of next week. Look at this big cool down coming in. And this even affects the middle of the country. Some cooler air. This is getting into early next week. This is midway next week. Look at this big cool down for the eastern U.S. Okay, then we're getting the next, it's about 8 days from now. Cooler air in the eastern U.S., still above average temperatures up in Canada, the middle of the country, but cooler than average temperatures hang with us all the way through about, the last week of October. And then, it does look like a big warm-up might come as we get into the last few days of October across the middle to eastern areas of the country, cooler air across the west. But we'll continue to try to figure this one out. I don't think that any kind of pattern is set in stone for now, between now and the foreseeable future for the U.S. So, weather right now, we got a big area of rain surging through areas of the Dakotas, Minnesota, a little bit of light rain across areas of Iowa, a little bit of action across the Rockies, some of this falling in the form of snow. Pesky low pressure locked into place, continues to bring some moisture across Maine, Atlantic Canada, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. But nothing too crazy weather-wise out there right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Some frost advisories. Freeze watches out here. Some freeze warnings. We got some winter weather advisories lingering across western areas of Wyoming. The threat of severe weather today, the light green, general risk of thunderstorms, dark green on marginal risk. So just be mindful of some severe weather in this area right here in Nebraska, Kansas, down to Colorado today. And then the risk of excessive rainfall, not much of it today. Conditions across the southeast today, pretty chill. Maybe a little bit of shower activity for southern Florida. Outside of that, it's a nice fall day. Cold front is moving through my area right now. Dew points are all the way down to almost 50. So love this time of the year. This morning across the northeast, some pesky showers will continue to kind of try to pivot back into Maine, even into southeast Mass. But hopefully we can get rid of this low pressure. We could always use the rain, though, for some of these areas. We get into tomorrow morning, waking up to a pretty relaxed start. South central U.S. It's going to get in motion for me here. We get into this afternoon. Some thunderstorms are possible in areas of northeast Colorado, northwest Kansas. So be aware of that. A little bit of moisture could get going later on tonight in the Panhandle of Oklahoma, the Panhandle of Texas, and then we get into tomorrow morning. It's a pretty calm start. It's been a lot of calm weather across this area of the country, really quiet. North central U.S., big area of moisture surging across, the Dakotas and northern Minnesota this morning, and this rain will eventually make it into the UP of Michigan, so your Thursday evening will be probably pretty damp across the UP of Michigan. Stephen, thank you for sending me, tagging me in the picture in the UP of Michigan, the peak fall foliage. If you live in the UP of Michigan, live anywhere where the fall foliage is really popping off, please send me a picture through email or Facebook or on X or any social media platform. I love seeing, I love fall. And then we start to get into late tonight. Some pesky showers will continue. It's just been an extension. Sometimes you can dramatically go from fall to winter in these areas up here, but you guys have really just dealt with a lot of moist air, unseasonably moist air, and then warmer than average temperatures for the most part up here. Western U.S., what we're looking at, big spinning low pressure over areas of the northern plains. Soaker in eastern Montana today, just steady, light, chilly rain, light to moderate chilly rain. And, we look at temperatures, what we're looking at, northeast chilly. I mean, these are high temperatures. It'll be, some areas like Mount Washington might not get above freezing today. Southeast, it's a chilly air mass. Mid-Atlantic, nice fall day. Southeast, not a chilly day, but definitely a pleasant fall day. Surge of warmth right up into the areas of the Dakotas and Minnesota. So warm air across the southern tier of the country. And then this is out west. So, all right, let's do our Bible devotion, and then we'll sound it off here. So this morning, this is a verse many of you guys are familiar with. It's 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9 through 10. But those who want to be rich fall into temptation, a trap, and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and by craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So I said the desire of being rich is dangerous and oftentimes can lead people down the wrong path. Now, I'm not saying the desire to be successful is dangerous, guys, but what I'm saying there is, and this is a kind of a touchy subject for people, money always is, but I'm saying that if you get wrapped up too much into the money part of the success, slippery slope. And I said, note, it says the love of money and not money. Okay, the love of money, not money. And people do get this scripture mixed up. I actually did it a couple years ago, and I was corrected very quickly in the YouTube comments. But I said there is a difference. I think a prime example of this at times can be actors, singers, athletes. A lot of people, it's hard to say a lot of people change or lose who they are. Some people will say, well, that's who they always are. And honestly, I would side more with that. I think at the root, we're all sinners, and our flesh desires these earthly things. So, listen, it's a constant battle to fight back those earthly desires. I mean, it's not easy. I don't think it's supposed to be easy. So that's why you constantly got to check yourselves. And I think there's a lot of people might look at these actors, actresses, and singers and athletes or rich people and think, well, they got it made. It's easy for them. Well, who knows what kind of battles they're facing? I'm sure that, it's a conflicting battle sometimes, to have all that wealth and try to not change who you are. And then some people change who they are and change into the person that, maybe is not a great person. And it might be easy for them because, let's be real, they're lost. They could be lost. And I said, coming across a lot of money can be a slippery slope. Be selfless with it. Be selfless with your finances. It can be, guys. Listen, I mean, it's hard to be selfless with our money. It is. One thing that, and I always go back to, me, and please don't take this as I'm trying to pat myself in the back or anything like that. But one thing that I've learned over the last few years, and this was hard for me, was when I started to give, I really started to enjoy it. And, I don't think about my loss with it. It says in the Bible, be a cheerful giver. And that's certainly what I've become. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's easy to become. I'll be honest, it wasn't for me before I started giving. I felt the Holy Spirit calling me to do it. And I continuously felt it, and I felt it, and I felt it, and I felt it. And finally I surrendered to it. And it changed my life, guys. It did. And, I know that's a little different than what we discussed. It's getting into a whole nother section of the Bible, tithing and stuff like that. But it's a very touchy subject, very, very touchy. And everybody's got different opinions of it. But what it comes back to is with the scripture we just went over, right? So just don't get so caught up in the money thing of what you're doing. Get more caught up in how you can use it, right? In a good way, in a way that God wants you to use it. So anyways, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all for everything. And we continue to move forward. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again tomorrow morning.